I think as coaches we should all be very proud of the fact that we make a huge impact weekly and daily with young people on the ground. And with coaching comes a big responsibility. And that responsibility shouldn't be viewed in terms of success on the field or winning or etc. And it goes back to some of the other key messages today. It's about the impact we can have on young people's lives if we can build a connection with them. And I think for coaches, it shouldn't be about success always on the field, even though it's important, but it should be about building a connection and helping young people develop as people. And that's very much what is underpinning our new player pathway and player development framework. John Tobin and I, who's here, were very lucky 2 weeks ago to be present when Eamon Ryan and Paddy Butler were presented with their awards to recognise their service to coaching and coach development. It was a very emotional day and a very uplifting day, and to be honest, at times it was overwhelming, because what you had is one great friend talking about the other and what each of them have done over the past 30, 40 years in terms of enriching the lives of the players that they have been involved with. But equally, when you multiply their impact against the number of coaches that they've developed in that period as well. But the key message that came from both of them, and earlier on we saw a piece from Eamon Ryan where he talked about it's about the player is at the centre, and if you get that right and you focus on that player, as a coach, it's really, really rewarding. Paddy's not here today because he lives that. Paddy is in Cork today coaching a club and working with a number of kids down there because, in his own words, he made a commitment 2 months ago to go to that club. So today, Paddy's pulling the players first, and that's what we're about, and that's what we should be about. He's serving the needs of the players today in that club in Cork, not putting himself before them or anything like it. He's also valuing the coaches that are working with those children this morning. I'll also share a story that day from Jim Ryan, Eamon's son. And I just want to go into something that we're working on. Jim was asked what would Eamon think about receiving the award. He said he probably wouldn't have turned up or accepted it because he believed he was a work in progress and he wasn't a finished article. So I think that's a key message today, that we're all here to learn, we're all here to develop, but he wasn't the finished article. And that's what I'd like to go through with you today, that finally leaving this place, that we have a work in progress at the moment, and that's our new coach development framework. That coach development framework is first and foremost driven by our new player pathway. Liam and Anya earlier talked about the need to provide a meaningful and developmental experience for our players. Intrinsic and integral within this model is that at each stage of this pathway, we, through good coaching, age-appropriate games, competitions, we provide that meaningful experience. So when people say, oh, why are you running games like that, or why don't you run competitions like that? Well, we're trying to align that intervention, that games program, that competition with the needs of the player. And that's where we want to take things. We want to take things on a journey, bring coaches on a journey whereby, first and foremost, you're serving the needs of the players, and it's our job as an organisation to serve you, serve the needs, your needs, through proper coach education. A couple of other things within this is that we also talked earlier on about the journey, and the coaching is a journey. Anya used the Irish word thorus. Liam talked about the coaching journey. For me, as an example, your coaching journey is certainly not linear. My own example in the last 4 years is that I coached under 14 girls, senior girls, under 16 boys, and now at the moment senior men. So in each of those 4 years, my needs were different. I had to think about under 14 girls, then think about under senior men. So my needs were different every year. I had to adapt. And that is the reality on the ground for all of you coaches. So what we're working on now is a coach development framework that reflects that reality. That reflects that from time to time, my needs, your needs will be different, and therefore, can we signpost people in a direction to learn and experience learning opportunities that fulfill those needs? So we're in something that's probably futuristic, and for a lot of people, they might go away today and say they were on the moon. Well, this is what we're hoping as a work in progress, and I'm underlining that this is a work in progress, but this is the learning space that we would like to create for coaches. And around this, and at the center of it, is the player, the environment within which the player and the coach work, and the game. Around all of this, we have that learning is personal, learning is social, it's emotional, and it's messy. And that was reflected on earlier on. You talked about that not every training session goes to plan, so what? And maybe that's where the best learning takes place. But what we're trying to do here is, we're trying to reflect and learn from consultation with 10,500 people in 2020 of a coach education study, whereby they told us that they didn't have time to do hours upon hours and hours of coaching courses. We know from listening to them that they want to go to workshops, practical workshops, they want to do things online. So we have to serve the customer, you, the coaches. So we're talking about here is this learning space. And you can see within it here, we have in red, you have safeguarding, we've introduction to coaching Gaelic games, we've our core modules and active learning. So they're the big rocks that we're going to have within our new framework. And then around all of that, we have specialist modules, coaching resources, demonstrations, workshops, communities of practice. And this just reflects the reality of what's happening out there. We mentioned conferences. We want to move to a situation where you guys here today will be rewarded for coming here today, because we want to move to a credit-based or a points-based model. So for every engagement you do as volunteers, we want to recognize volunteer time, that we will recognize and reward the effort that you've taken here to drive today. Okay? And in time, there will be an accumulation of credits and you'll get awards, etc. So that's the direction we'd like to go in. And I'll just go through a little bit more detail on it. So just some features. So what we're talking about here is a flexible, learner-centered range of opportunities aligned to the pathway. So I've just gone through some of the opportunities there, whether it's online workshops, whether it's core modules, which are practical. Core modules that are practical. We want to recognize the fact that you're out coaching weekly in your clubs, and through maybe some online tools or whatever, you can engage in self-reflection and learning in that respect as well, and we can reward the fact that people are actively coaching. We don't do that, and that's the way we want to get to. Sorry. As I said, it's very much in terms of design with the volunteer in mind. It's just in time. So we will provide the learning opportunities for the time it's needed. So if you're coaching under 8, their coaching will reflect the time you're with those children, and it's just for me. So it's very much a personal experience that we want to bring people through. So I talked about it being credit-based. We want to reward all learning. So in time, we will have a portal where people go on, register for whatever. But we will be able to track your journey. You'll be able to track your own journey. We'll let you know what's coming up that's related to the fact if you're an under 10 coach or whatever. And the key point here that it's going to focus on the coaching skills. Liam talked about getting coaching right. And what that means is, as Liam and Ryan said, it's about putting the player at the centre. But we also need to make it game related. So that's the learning space we want to get to. As I said, it's going to be related and aligned to the player pathway. I think it's going to be really exciting in the terms of it reflects very much what 10,500 people said back to us last year. That you want to go to things like this, that you want to see practical workshops as you saw today. That's where the real learning takes place, where you get to ask the questions that you did afterwards. That's where learning takes place. And as Liam says, you plan, do and review then in the field. So that's the direction we want to take things. It's a work in progress. It'll also consume and bring in things that we have already. We're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater or anything like that. Lots of great things happening. But we want to take the best of things out there and package them in here to our new framework. Recently we launched the Introduction to Coaching Gaelic Games. And I should mention too that that is the first common coaching course that'll be across all three associations, ladies football, the GAA and Camogie. This new framework will be integrated between the three organisations. The player pathway is integrated between the three organisations because it makes no sense if I'm a Camogie coach and also a hurling coach and going to two different courses. So we're trying to serve the volunteer because we value your time. And that's the work that's ongoing at the moment. The Introduction to Coaching Gaelic Games was just launched 2 weeks ago, and probably in 2 weeks' time it'll be up and running. It's an absolutely fantastic course. If you have the foundation course already, I'd nearly encourage people to go back and do the Introduction to Coaching Gaelic Games course. Because I think there'll be a massive opportunity for all coaches in the club, ladies football, Camogie and GAA, all to come together. And that is something that we'll be pushing out over the next few weeks. So that's the direction we want to go in. It's just a sneak preview, really. There's a lot of work has to take place over the next number of months. And please God, in the autumn, we'll be in a position to start piloting things. But from our perspective, we believe it reflects what people want, and that's what we should be doing. I suppose finally then, for me, 4 or 5 weeks ago, we didn't know we were going to have a coaching conference. We didn't know what was going to happen with COVID or whatever else. And particularly Martin Kennedy, who drove it on, was brave. He took it on, and what he's done over the last number of weeks has been phenomenal. We couldn't have had a coaching conference if it wasn't for John Prenti and the Connacht GAA Council for hosting us here in the NUI Galway Connacht GAA Airdome. People have used the word, it was a novelty to bring the coaching conference here, but again, over the years, people wanted the diversity within the conference of hearing top-class speakers, but also they wanted the workshop practical experience as well. And I believe we brought that here today. The weather, maybe timing impacted on certain people being able to get here, but we 300 people here all the same today, which is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. We're delighted with it. And we're really, really thankful for all of you to turn up. In addition to John and his team here, there's one person in particular, and that's Kurt Reinhardt, who's the facilities manager here, who keeps this place with air or whatever happens with it, I don't know, but he keeps it up. We 2 men on the roof this morning taking snow off it. So Kurt, thanks very much for all your help and assistance in this. I know you've only had 1 day off since November, and I'm sure this was a good headache for you this week, but I think what has this done today is it has opened our eyes up to the potential of this place for perhaps future conferences here as well. I want to thank the children from Turin, Swinford, the young lads with the Mayo development squads, their coaches as well for bringing them here today. I want to thank all the guest speakers, panelists who have been so insightful and kind and generous with their time today. My own team in Games Development in Croke Park for coming down last night and helping with everything. Carl Craig, your team here, games managers from Connacht. Another aspect of this weekend that was really important for us was the fact that we had our own colleagues and members of Games Development across the country delivering the practicals, which is something that hasn't been able to be done before either, which is brilliant. Gerard Connor, Owen Mooney, Niall Williams, Damien Coleman, Martin Fogarty was there, Dara Cox, Mick Bowen, Clean O'Connor. Apologies if I forget anybody, but thanks very much, everybody. I think I've everybody included, Martin. Thank you very much. And I suppose to all of you for staying around, I'm not sure whether I would have. Being honest, I'd be baiting down the road maybe. But thank you very much. Real pleasure to be here. It's a great start to the year for all of us, and it gives us a pick up as we get started on the year. So safe home, everybody. Thank you very much. And don't forget to build that connection with players. That's the key. Never mind the results. It's the young fella in his 20s or 30s that'll stop and say hello to you on the road. Then you know you've done a good job in years to come. So keep that in mind. Best luck and enjoy your coaching. Thank you very much.